Kia ora, I'm whanana Efeso Collins, and welcome to my podcast, Fes and Friends. As you know, I'm running to be Mayor of Auckland, but this podcast is my chance to turn the microphone onto my friends, my family, and those supporting this movement for a just and sustainable city. So sit back and settle in as we do this for the people. Well, kia ora again, everyone, and thanks for tuning into this podcast. Really good to have your company and hope that you enjoy what we're doing. Today, I'm joined by Justin Latif, who's a journalist who's covered a lot of community issues over the last 15 to 20 years. You look really young for someone who's covered journalism that long. So you probably started writing stories when you were about 5 years old. So see, that's how young you look. Although I am a little bit taken by what you're wearing today, and we'll come to that shirt and this rugby league ball that's in front of us. Justin has worked for the Spin-Off, for Stuff, and for the Manukau Courier, and you were the editor, weren't you, for the Courier for some time. So you're like hard out, top of the notch kind of journalist. So I'm really intrigued today because I've got someone really special. You're currently living in Mangere, you're married, and you have two daughters, so a real community man. So Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into journalism.
Yeah, I got into journalism out of uni. I did a PE degree actually, and that's why my passion for sports started then and well before then. But I got into journalism because I wanted to be a sports journalist, and then I slowly transitioned out of that and went into more general news, and have worked my way, I guess, into working primarily in South Auckland, writing about South Auckland and our community down there.
When you do a PE degree, do you focus on particular sports, or is it a broad kind of degree where you're doing like things like anatomy and
you focus on everything. Like you start out studying gymnastics. That's the only sport you start out studying, which is weird, but it's all about the human movement and being fit, and then you can focus on things. You do electives and things. So I actually did things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and like weird stuff that I had never done before because I grew up playing cricket and rugby and soccer like most Kiwis. But PE allowed you to do all these other things like learn about tramping and waka ama and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it was an amazing degree. I would recommend everyone do one, even if you don't like sport, because you just learn about the world. And I think it set me up really well.
Did you have a really good cohort of people that you went through the course with? Like, because you're probably, playing these games or sports.
Yeah, I mean, we had amazing group. I mean, we had Adam Thompson, who's now an All Black, whole bunch of like future professional sports people were in that group who we didn't realize were that good at sport at the time. But also people have gone on to a whole bunch of different things. But it was just a fun group. Went on tramps and the PE department down in Dunedin where I studied is famously into having fun, and it was definitely a good time.
Did you ever teach?
No, I was going to be a PE teacher, but I found that I just found spending that much time with children kind of stressful because I'm a bit of an introvert, and I probably found I was better as a writer than as a person up front talking to kids. So, I think when I realized that, that's why I got into journalism, because I was like, I still want to be around sport, but maybe have a bit of time to write about it rather than talking about it.
So for a journalist, explain to us how because we're told that journos are objective, although I have serious issues around that kind of notion. So how do you write a story? So you're examining a game, and I heard you wrote quite a scathing All Blacks review one time. But anyway, that aside, how do you write something that's subjective and that people are going to be interested in reading? Is that where you seek a headline even though it was a really boring rugby match?
I guess end of the day, you're always looking for your angle, and you're looking for what is going to make the reader click your story or read your story, because end of the day, your bread and butter is advertising and it's views and eyeballs on your story. So you do have to find something that'll capture attention. And that does mean, I think, some of us in the media can push the boundaries of what's objective. But, more and more people want you to take a stance, take an opinion. And so, I think we can say as loud as we want that we're objective, but we're still also trying to sell papers, sell websites, sell ads. And so, journalism, we're the fourth estate. We're supposed to keep everyone honest, but at the same time, we're also trying to keep our heads above water. And so it's a tricky game, I guess, in that respect.
So you would say that there's a difference, or there's the spectrum of taking a kind of an honest stance and sensationalizing something?
Look, I mean, some of us will be more sensational than others. I mean, I probably went away from sports because, I got really interested in the kind of nitty-gritty of health and politics and just what's happening in a community and those sort of things. And I guess, I decided to keep my sporting pursuits to when I went and watched the Warriors and watched Queensland beat New South Wales.
Oh,
yeah. So, so I guess, that's why I got more out of sports and into, general news.
Yeah, well, after that last comment about Queensland and the Blues, I might end the interview right there and say thanks for coming in. When you start now to look at the community, what were some of the big issues that drew you into writing about community stories?
I think what I love about community news and community journalism is that you see that on the ground level, people of all different political shades and different backgrounds all just care about, they want to be heard, they want to connect with each other, they want their kids to have a better life, they want their elderly to be looked after. And just realizing that when you help people share those stories, people feel more unified as a community. They feel more together. They want to work together to find those solutions. And so there is a real power in like telling those community stories. And that's what I've really enjoyed over my career. And, my wife and I even have started a magazine based on just telling stories in South Auckland. And so, it's something, I'm super passionate about.
Is there a story that stands out for you as one of like the highlights that you got to write about, or a story where you think that really moved me? You know how sometimes there are all these experiences, but there's something where the journo walks in and you think, man, that threw me. I did not expect that to be the final product of the story that I went on, or they took me on such an emotional ride that it really touched my heart in a way that I wasn't expecting.
I think one story would be Iha Mātau. So when we started, I probably wrote some stories on that when the campaign first started, and it was these 5 cousins and some people from Mangere Bridge who were sort of in the background helping them, trying to like get this massive corporate property developer to stop this development out on the Iha Mātau Peninsula. And we wrote about that in our little magazine, and then I wrote about it in the Manukau Courier, and it always just felt like, this is an important story, but it just felt like there's no chance that these guys will get their way, But we tried to write as many stories as we could and raise the profile, and the campaign those guys did was incredible. And then to like see that sort of 5 or 6 years later, for them to actually prevail and to be on the land. And I know you were there that night that the police tried to force the campaigners off that land, and we were both there, and it was just electric. And to see, I don't think I had any special input in that story, but just see it over all those years, and having visited and seen how that campaign progressed over all that time, and then to see them actually prevail, it was just blew my mind that you could start with something so small and you could basically force the government to spend over $30 million because it was a right thing to do, and the rightness shone out in the end. That is a story that will always stick with me, and the ability to be a little bit involved, telling their stories. The best stories I think I've written have been from talking to people at Iha Mātau and talking to them about it, and having our magazine help some of those stories get out there was always something I'm hugely grateful for. So that's one of them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember that too. We're heading into local government elections, and I wonder how stories help people feel like they're connected, so much so to the democratic process that they'll participate by voting at the very least. Do you think communities understand how they can be part of this process?
I really don't think they do. And I think what's sad is that it's partly because they don't understand how their story helps move the situation. I was just talking to someone about his story of helping get rid of liquor stores in South Auckland, and how over 10 years he's now seeing real movement and change in that issue. And it's because he's been willing to go to hearings and tell the stories of the community, and the people making the decisions are finally listening. And I think it's the case that if we tell our story in really empowered, meaningful ways, people do eventually listen. Our playgrounds, our parks, we need to tell the story of the fact that our parks and playgrounds are not up to scratch. But if we just shrug our shoulders and say no one will do anything, then no one will do anything. We have to keep telling our stories. And it's something I love about social media. We're seeing our young people telling the stories, and you can jump on TikTok now and there's amazing guys just out there telling the stories of their community. And the more we do that, I think, the future is bright if we can keep pushing for that.
Yeah. You've taken the bold step of joining my campaign, the Efeso for Mayor campaign. Is that part of telling the story?
I guess so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a campaign that's grassroots. It's about making sure that everyone in Auckland has a voice, and you've been big on listening to people's stories and trying to make sure that wherever you're from, that story is valued, and that we're trying to provide a council that will, be reflective of what people are telling you. And that's what excites me, I guess, is that it's a campaign about giving people a chance for their stories to be heard and to be acted on. And, I guess, I'm not in journalism right now, but I feel like, being able to support this campaign and maybe help this city be a place where everyone's stories are really valued feels like the right thing to do at this time.
Do you think being involved in this campaign is a bit like being a Warriors supporter, in that you're the underdog, you know that you're on the cusp of something great, and you think this is our season? Is that what's driving this commitment?
I think it's more like being a Queensland supporter, because we are the underdog, but we're driven by a passion to represent our communities, and we've got the legends of old, supporting us, as well as fresh young talent, and I think we can create a legacy just like Queensland has, and maybe that'll inspire the Warriors as well. Yeah. I think the Warriors could learn a lot from this campaign, from Queensland, as a Warriors supporter, I think we aspire to be better. But, the template's out there already, and, as I've said, Queensland provides that template at the moment.
Holding that Queensland analogy, how are we going to get people involved? How are we going to make sure that people are enrolled to vote and people going to feel like they're a part of this campaign?
I think the key is for us to be listening to people's stories, and for people to be willing to come and make sure their voice is heard. This campaign is about your story, being able to have a voice, and that starts with getting enrolled to vote, and actually, making sure that the people you want to see in power are given an opportunity. And so that's what this election's about. That's what every election's about, and it's just a case of people, being willing to actually, make that step and give their local communities a chance to be heard.
Yeah, I'm into final word because I like those rugby analogies. Is there a final word before we wrap up our little chat? And it's been great talking to you. This has been awesome.
I think the final word is let's not let this opportunity pass. This is a great opportunity to have our community, for our community to be front and centre, and all communities in Auckland. We've been through a tough time with COVID. We've all been stuck in our houses, but this is a chance to have a real community-focused campaign and a community-focused mayor leading our city. And so that's my final word. Let's, put community first.
Yeah, well, it's been a real joy talking to you. I'm glad that we had this talk and I didn't sting you too much, or you didn't sting me too much on my support for the New South Wales Blues. But, one day we're going to come right. And we thought if we let Queensland win a little bit, then they're going to feel really confident for the next season. And then the next season, and we're just absolutely appalling at the moment. But great to talk to you, and thanks for tuning in. I know those of you who are listening at the moment, you'll know that I'm running for Mayor, I'm Efeso, and really important that we do have a community-focused approach to the campaign, but also a mayor who's going to stand up for local communities with a campaign based on care, collaboration, and courage. So invite you to join our campaign, join the movement. You can go to www.efeso.nz and make sure you sign up, and make sure you join us, because we're going to make a real difference in the community. Thanks for joining me, Justin.
Cool.
So thank you for listening in. Remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe, as well as leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform. And lastly, don't forget the mayoral elections are coming up soon, and it's important because they give you a chance to have your say on how this city is run. Voting is done by postal ballot, so look out for your voting papers in your letterbox, and make sure you mail your papers before October the 8th, or just drop them into your local library. Let's do this for the people.